So my friend Andrew Filliponi, Syracuse alum, now at 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh, joins us now. First of all, Pony, it is great to see you through the magic of Zoom. How you doing, bud?
Brian, we've come a long way since hanging out at the Chinese restaurant on Marshall Street. That's about 15 years ago now.
That's right.
When I was trying to get myself started in this crazy business. So it's just a delight to be back on with you in Syracuse. And unfortunately, we got to talk, I guess, Syracuse football, which was an eyesore last Saturday. I caught a lot of that game, boy. Oof.
Well, this is why I really enjoy talking to you about this, because you're a Syracuse alum. You asked me more about Syracuse football, I think, more than any alum out there. You're a fan, you're into it, but you're in Pittsburgh. But as you have told me in the past, and we can discuss about it here, I mean, obviously Pittsburgh Panthers sports in a town with the Steelers and the Penguins and the pro sports town that it is, it really has to fight for attention. So what's that like, being a Syracuse alum that probably wants to talk about this game and talk about Syracuse-Pittsburgh, but kind of knowing what's on the priority list?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot for Pitt football. And just to give people a lay of the land here, there's a ton of Penn State alums in Allegheny County, which is in western Pennsylvania where, Pittsburgh is located. And so really, for my purposes, even though I'm on the Pitt flagship station, when you talk Pitt football, you have to understand that, right off the bat, you're pretty much splitting your audience, because there's a certain segment, and it's a large one, that doesn't really care about Pitt football. Now, what's interesting about the Penn State side of things, Brent, is I have found that Pitt fans like hearing about Penn State football because they hate Penn State so much. So, we've talked about this behind the scenes a lot. I have found that the Penn State conversations actually attract a broader audience than Pitt. Now, one of the things that is, and it's interesting because this is obviously a football town, but I have found that basketball, because it's, in that dead period in between, NFL free agency, the draft, and the end of the football season, is that when Pitt basketball is really humming, that does, I think, that probably attracts, I think, from my perspective, the biggest reaction. And there were obviously years when I was here when Jamie Dixon had them ranked in the top 10 and they were at the top of the Big East, where it felt like a big deal. But of course, that now is a long, long time ago, or at least feels like it.
You said it. The Syracuse team obviously did not come out of the gate strong. It was the opposite for Pittsburgh last week. I mean, it's Austin Peay. It's an FCS team.
Mm-hmm.
But, let's go 10-minute quarters in the second half. Let's just get out of here and get to dinner.
That was something else. Yep.
You rarely hear about that these days, but they enacted the mercy rule. But that being said, every time Syracuse and Pitt get together, even though Pitt has won 8 of the last 10, they seem to be close games or wild games. Go back to the mighty Nathan Peterman leading Pitt to that 76-61 win a few years ago. One possession games, less than 7 points, it seems. So with Pitt being a 20-point favorite, and I know you like to put a wager down here and there, I thought Syracuse was an easy cover last week against Carolina, and for a while it was looking pretty good. That didn't turn out to be the case. So if you were a betting man, Pitt, what is it, plus 20 or minus 20 right now? Do you think that's a good line for this Panthers team, all things considered?
Well, yeah. I mean, just knowing both teams, the reason why I have a hard time, picturing Syracuse doing anything offensively in this game is because I just know the mismatch that exists between the Syracuse offensive line and the Pitt defensive line. Even though Jalen Twyman, who opted out, who really I thought last year was a carbon copy of Aaron Donald at Pitt, it was incredible to me how similar those two players were and the kind of impact they had on the Pitt defense. Losing him was a substantial subtraction. However, they should have Weaver back, who missed all of last year, and he also missed the Austin Peay game. There were some questions about his COVID test. A couple of the companies said he was positive. A couple of the other labs said he was negative, so they had to keep him out. It's just wild. So they should have, outside of Twyman, that defensive line intact. And, Pitt's as good as any team in America, Brent, at putting pressure on the quarterback. And, One of the things I've said about DeVito that, really concerns me is watching him. I feel like I'm watching Christian Hackenberg all over again at Penn State. I mean, the guy, to me, he thinks there's going to be a pass rush and starts to react to one even when there isn't one there. And I'm just really concerned for him and his development, that he's gotten to a point, because of all the sacks last year, because of all the pressures, where it's almost like a David Carr, Tim Couch situation, where I'm just concerned that a guy's career has been negatively affected by the pass rush. And now, even when he has decent protection, he panics because he's anticipating that it's going to happen no matter what.
Do you feel like this is the best team that Pat Narduzzi has had since he's been there at Pitt?
No, I don't. I think the team he had his first year that he inherited from Paul Chryst was better. That's the team that beat Penn State. I think the score was 42-39, and they got blown out. They ended up not winning the ACC Coastal Division, but they had Tyler Boyd at wide receiver. They had James Conner at running back. They had NFL offensive linemen. They had Peterman, who I know has been a disaster in the NFL, but was a really good grad transfer quarterback. And so I thought that year, from just a purely talent perspective, he had his best team. Now, this is his defense. All of these recruits are his players. And I think this is the best Narduzzi defense we've seen, Brent. But I still have serious questions about what their identity is, who they want to be offensively. They have a veteran quarterback, and they have continuity at offensive coordinator for the first time with Mark Whipple, who used to be the Steelers quarterbacks coach and UMass's head coach. He's in his second year, but I'm not buying into what we saw against Austin Peay. I don't think that 55 points is a real true indicator of what kind of offense Pitt really has.
This is not the traditional Pitt, like even what you said a few years ago, but think of Craig Ironhead Hayward, and you just think of a physical Pittsburgh team.
Curtis Martin. I mean, they've had great running backs. LaShawn McCoy. Yep.
Well, the names go on and on. That's exactly right. Whipple likes to throw the ball a little bit, and he's got Kenny Pickett, who I've been overusing this joke, but I got to say it again. It feels like he's been there since like 1988, right? Just certain guys that have been around forever. And, here's Kenny Pickett again in his senior year. But now that he's comfortable with Whipple and he's been in that system, again, 55 points against Austin Peay is going to throw you off a little bit. But how do you feel Kenny Pickett can be here in his senior season? How good can this offense be?
Well, he actually reminds me of Eric Dungy a little bit, Brent. He's not as physical as Dungy. He's not a guy that's going to run somebody over and, throw his body into harm's way and, really kind of rally and be a leader in that respect, where even though he's a quarterback, he's just a football player and he's willing to do whatever it takes to make plays. But I do think they look up to him. I do think he has the coach's trust. I think, like Dungy, his legs are a weapon. He's not the fastest quarterback, but I have found when he's outside the pocket and he's a threat to run, he's usually better. I think that I am still trying to figure out, and you'd think by now as a senior you'd have a better read on a player, but I'm still trying to figure out if some of his struggles are because the weapons just aren't there. 2 years ago, they had two running backs that were 1,000-yard backs, and they were a ground and pound, old school, kind of fits the classic mold of what you think of when you say Pitt football. They really exemplified that. But last year, they went totally off script. They threw the ball a ton. They weren't really a vertical passing game. They were more of a quick rhythm passing game. And I just never felt like with the receivers and with Pickett that really worked. I thought there was a lot of square peg, round hole with that. And again, I don't think we really can tell from the Austin Peay game. So I don't see NFL players, Brent, at wide receiver and running back on this roster. Maybe Taysier Mack, who's an Indiana transfer in his second year with the team, would be the closest thing, but we don't have a buck on him because he missed the Austin Peay game too because of a positive test. So I think their offense is going to be their bugaboo and their question mark all year. If they get 25 plus points from their offense per game, then I think Pitt can be one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the ACC.
All right, final thought from you here, Pony. You're always asking me about Syracuse football. I turn the table on you, okay? How you feeling? What do you think about this team? Look, all things considered, lack of practice time in the offseason. They handed them a new schedule, a much tougher road slate, by the way, about a month ago. But, the season's underway. The excuses go out the window, and fans like you that follow this team and are passionate about it want to see results. What are you thinking about the Cuse?
Yeah, well, I was really proud of the final product 2 years ago. I went down to the Camping World Bowl. I mean, I was really into that team. That just to have a double-digit win season is something that I never thought I'd see again. Maybe. I mean, I don't want to be hyperbolic about it or exaggerate, but that was to me such a found money out of nowhere season that I just really tried to soak it up as much as I could, Brent. I like Babers as far as when he is a mouthpiece or a spokesperson for the football program and for the university. I think he does a great job in that respect. I still wonder, though, it's one thing when you're down in Texas, or when you're at a MAC program and you come in with, this air raid, Art Briles style offense. I think, it probably fits in that league and in that part of the country better than it does. And I get you're in a dome and they've tried to use that as a selling point, but I don't know. I haven't seen that really translate with recruiting yet. So I just wonder, what is the ceiling for them under Babers? Am I supposed to be satisfied with 5-7 like last year? Is that supposed to be a season that I just accept? I don't want it to be the case. Am I kidding myself if I'm still, living in the 90s where I expect that they're going to be an upper echelon fringe top 25 team every year? Maybe I am. I have always believed that, you work with what's around you. I don't think that Syracuse is a national football brand like they are with basketball. So I just wonder if their style of play really fits where they are geographically. I mean, to me, I would try to be more of a physical team that used a pro style with 2 tight ends and just tried to be bigger and tougher than people. But then again, as I say that really, they tried that at Boston College and that really didn't work under Adazio. So I don't know Brent, I don't really think there's an easy answer here. I think that's part of the problem. And my other big thing, I know I'm going along with this answer, but the other thing that I've always, and I say this about Pitt football because the expectations are high here, you get out what you put in. And so if we're only going to have 30,000 people per game at a Syracuse football game, who am I to expect results like they're one of these SEC schools or Clemson or Virginia Tech where there's 60,000 people at every game? Like we have to do our part in order for the program to take the next level. And I know that's hard to do. I think most people want to see it and then go from there. If you build it, will come. But I don't know. I don't really think that the fan base and the alumni base really treats the football program like it's a priority. And that's probably why we've gotten the results we have for the last 20 or so years.
Yeah, and unfortunately, no one's going to see the new Carrier Dome football team in person as that debuts next week against a Georgia Tech team that might be a little better than we thought. They were picked to finish last in the ACC, but that may not be the case. Pony, it's great to catch up with you. Keep up the good work. Proud of what
anytime, Brent.
In Pittsburgh, my friend.